Okay. The scriptwriters obviously, when Alysia sold the rights to the book, the scriptwriters obviously had some license to kind of make it into a movie, and there were some things that they changed a little bit here and there. But overall, I thought that the movie did a pretty good job of depicting the story of our family and the story of Alysia and what happened to her. So, are you there? Are you able to hear us now? Let me.
She put down her phone.
Oh. Hi, are you able to hear us now?
She's on mute.
Looks like you're. Ooh.
Oh, she's
Yeah,
on
we have
mute.
all sorts of technical functions.
She's on mute. See, it says mute.
Looks like you're on mute.
See, it says
Okay.
mute.
Okay, you gotta mute the phone so we don't hear that echo. Okay.
Tell her we hear.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You're very loud.
You're very loud and very loud. Alysia, do you want to talk a little bit about the making of the movie?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the making of the movie. I'm so sorry. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight to the Wanee Theater. My Uncle David took a photo of the front of the theater, and it was just the way I remember it, and it's really incredible that these many, decades after I started going to Kewanee every summer after my mom's death, and Kewanee was such an important place to me that this movie would now be showing in Kewanee. That in and of itself is an incredible thing, and I have to thank the Wanee Theater for hosting this, and also thank everyone for coming out and supporting the movie. So I just wanted to say that first.
Let me interrupt us for a second. I do want. Is this okay? I want to thank one person.
Can't hear anything.
Who was? Yeah, no, not yet. But just wait. Patty Seifert, everybody. I'm not sure if you know her, but this wouldn't have happened in Kewanee if it wasn't for Patty, who wrote Chrissy and told her about the Kewanee connection to Fairyland, and then Chrissy wrote Lionsgate, and somehow magically it happened here. So I had nothing to do with this movie being here tonight. Patty, if it wasn't for Patty and Chrissy, it never would be here. But I want to thank you guys. Okay, Alysia.
Okay, I actually didn't hear what you just said, unfortunately. But I'm happy to answer questions about the making of the movie, or questions about my time growing up in Kewanee. I don't know if it's possible for my dear Uncle David Binder, who is on site, to maybe message me some questions, if having me unmuted creates an echo effect, but I would love to. I think people know that that I started coming to Kewanee earlier than I can remember. Meaning some of my memories of, I don't know when I first started coming to Kewanee. I know I came there as a baby, but my memories are I was so little when I started coming there. And then after my mother died, I came out every summer for the entire summer because that was something that was worked out between my grandmother, Ann Binder, and my father, Steve Abbott. And I think that was something that was good for the both of them, that my grandparents wanted to spend some time raising me because I didn't have a mother. And maybe I was a connection to Barbara. And then I think it was also helpful for my father as a single father to have a break from being a single father. And so that I remember from being a little girl and the youngest I could fly alone on the plane to basically my teenage years, I would come out and spend the duration of summer from June to August and going to the Midland Country Club to swim, spending a lot of time in Wilmot Park, where as I got older, I would take walks around the park and sort of wrestle with important questions in my life. So, and of course, all the family gatherings in the summer and at Christmas and Thanksgiving. So, and up until each of my grandparents passed, I would try to come out to Kewanee every year, and just for me, the sound of the cicadas in the summer, just the view of the sunset at the railroad track. So many Kewanee specific memories are really tied to my personal history. And I know that with regards to the movie, Kewanee does not play, it's not detailed to the extent it is in my memoir. And I think, I don't know if folks were expecting more of that, but I do know that the filmmakers, the director, Andrew Durham, who wrote the script, there's a process when you write a book, from moving a life into a book, where you have to distill and simplify the story just for the sake of readability. That is further distilled when you adapt a book into a movie. So I think that a lot of that, the story was sort of pared down. So my grandmother, that is played by Gina Davis, really isn't at all like Anne Binder as people knew her in Kewanee. She's playing a grandmother who happens to be called Munka, but in the movie she plays a narrative role, and she's an important figure in my life, kind of representing maybe an alternative to living the way that we lived in San Francisco. But in real life, Munka was such a independent, forceful character, who, her work at the Kewanee Public Library, where I would spend a lot of time looking at magazines and checking out records, her time at Midland, her very active social life. Like, she was a very smart, very talented and inspiring figure in my life. And I don't think that was able to be conveyed in the movie. And so I just wanted to say that, like, in my dream world, she could have been made more of a character. But that being said, I was very happy that at least in the scenes between Steve and Munka in the movie, that there is actually a photo of the real Munka in the background. And so I felt like it was a way that I could kind of smuggle in the real Anne Binder into this story, where the character as she's written doesn't reflect her true personality.
Hey, Dave.
So I'm gonna see if you can either message me or ask me some more questions that I can answer.
I asked her when the last time she was in Kewanee and if she plans on coming back.
Okay. The question is, when was the last time she was in Kewanee, and does she plan on coming back? She should have been here tonight.
Well, yes, that would have been wonderful, but not everything works out perfect.
David, do you want to ask questions? Okay, a question's coming, a text is coming in. I don't know if it's possible to take questions from the audience. I hope everyone liked the movie.
Okay, I'm gonna send this out to her now.
But yeah, a lot of the photos that had actually hung in Anne Binder's living room are hanging in the living room of that set. When was the last time I was in Kewanee, and when will you be back? I'm sorry that I didn't come back for the showing tonight, because I think that would have been very special to be there, and I am sorry to not be able to be there. I do, my cousins, Jeremy and Shannon Smith, lived in Kewanee, and after Munka died. So Grandpa died, I think was it 2006, and Munka died in 2008. And so there were some Christmases and some gatherings in Kewanee where we, we scattered Munka's ashes. So I think it's probably it could easily be 10 or 15 years since I was there. Whenever David goes, he takes pictures and shares them with me, but I don't have a high school reunion to go back to. But I would like, it is important to go back and for me to return to Windmark Park and see what's changed and what's different, and look at the return to the. Oh, a lot of people in the audience remember Munka. That's great. How could you forget Munka? She was such an incredible woman. And I just want to say too that Munka would visit me in New York every fall, at least once a year. She would visit me in New York up until I had my second child in 2007. She came out to visit, and so it was really a part of. She was just such a cosmopolitan. Interesting woman, and a lot of my friends really adored her. We'd always go out to eat with my friends, and so she was just kind of just such a singular person who, like, I just miss having those weekly phone calls with. But yeah, I haven't been back to Kewanee in a while, but I would love to make a pilgrimage with David or other family and sort of visit the old sites. But yeah, I just have such strong memories of going with Grandpa to the Kewanee Hospital, and him taking me on errands to Osco or to the People's Bank, and he'd always sort of hand me little dum-dum lollipops that he kept in the top drawer of his desk. And just being a lot of the summers I would just be by myself with them, and Munka would always sort of set me up on play dates with other kids, like her friends' kids, or sometimes sign me up for camps at Black Hawk. I remember taking some acting classes and taking part in some camps, but I never took up tennis or golf or bowling. I feel like there were some times when the binders or the bindersmiths would get together and do sports, and I was distinctly not good at them. So we had a lot, I shared a lot with Munka. We got along really well and naturally, I think, enjoyed each other's company, but I could not take part in the sports. I think swimming and laying out and tanning next to the pool at Midland was my main occupation.
Pool's not there anymore, right?
But it is worth noting that all of the interior shots in the film, both the ones that are taking place at my grandparents' house and the ones that take place in San Francisco, were all filmed in a single building, and only the exterior shots were filmed on location in San Francisco. But because this film was shot in about 21 days in the US, and on a very limited budget, we did not have a budget to travel and do on location shoots in Kewanee, Illinois. Yes, the pool isn't anymore at Midland. That's shocking to me. I'm like, how can you have the Midland Country Club without having the swimming pool? Because that are some of my fondest memories, are hanging out by that pool. Though, I also have a lot of memories of eating lunch or dinner at the club. That I assume you can still eat lunch and dinner there.
Other questions?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk more about making of the movie. Are there some specific questions? Okay, I'm being asked to hold on.
What is the process
I hope I'm not talking too loudly. I'm in Vermont right now, visiting a friend, so that's why there's this old kind of barn
What was the
type
process
of
to get the movie?
space
Get it
I'm
from a
in.
book to a movie.
And it's very cold up here, and I've got a wood burning stove in the corner and a blanket on my lap because it's a little chilly.
She asked about the process of moving or going from book to movie.
I hope people in the audience are yelling out questions. I'm hoping David takes a picture of what it looks like in the inside there. Okay, talk a bit about the process of moving from book to movie. Okay, well, it should be noted that this movie took a very, very long time to make. The book came out in 2013 and was optioned at the end of that year. By within a year or two, there was a script that was written, but we weren't able to actually raise the financing to go into production until 2022. So that's, about 8 years of what's called pre-production. And in that pre-production period, it just took forever to find different, to make edits on the script, but to find different actors and think about locations and scouting and budgets and such. But then the process, what was really good was I had a very good relationship with Andrew Durham, who is the director, who I met him and Sophia Coppola when the book was first optioned. And I really made a decision in the beginning I really wanted to make myself an indispensable part of the process so that they would see that, I wanted to be involved, but I didn't want to be involved in such an annoying way that they would say, yeah, let's keep her out of this. She's asking for too much. I just wanted to offer ideas, but really more like, here's some photos, here's some letters, here's some things that might help you. And so I just was always trying to help. And as a result, as the script was coming together, I would be sent drafts and I can offer notes. And if there was anything that bothered me, if they were going to make any significant changes from the book, they would always talk with me about what those changes would be. Or there was some dialogue in an earlier version of the script that the director had wanted to attribute to my Uncle Jim, my Aunt Janet's husband. And I said, I don't think actually my Uncle Jim would ever say that. And so his name was changed to Hank. And so there are ways that, creatively you can, I knew from the beginning that good movies shouldn't replicate the book exactly. So I wanted the filmmakers to have space to kind of make their own movie. And it should be, I should say too, that the director, Andrew Durham, his dad died of AIDS the same year my dad died of AIDS. And so the movie is dedicated to both our dads, Jerry and Steve. And so there are some elements of the story that are most of the elements of the story are directly from my memoir, but there are also some elements that are informed by his own experience with his dad, things his dad said or his experience taking care of his dad. So I think it was a bit of a collaboration. Another question is if you are doing any more writing or will write another book. I have continued to write. I write essays, and I have wanted to write another book, but it's a difficult book to write because it's sort of on my experience as a mother and having two children. One, my daughter, with my oldest child, who her birthday August 28th is also happens to be the anniversary of my mother Barbara's death. And then I have a son who's a couple of years younger, and he has profound autism. So he doesn't live with us and has severe disability. And so I have done writing and have wanted to write about my experience of mothering without having a mother and the experience of mothering my son. But it is a hard project. It's very different than writing about my dad, where I have reams and reams of journals and letters and materials that I could use to sort of recreate this past. Someone wants to know about what happened to you, your family and children. Where are you now, etc. So I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts. That's outside Boston. After my dad died, in the movie you see me packing up that box, I stayed on in San Francisco for another 2 years, or a little bit less than 2 years. And then I moved back to New York because I decided that my life had been cut short, not cut short, but a lot of my ambitions in New York I had to put aside to take care of my dad. So after he died, I stayed in San Francisco, but the city felt like it was full of ghosts. And so I wanted to go back to New York, where I still had a lot of friends. And so that's what I did. I moved back to New York in 1994, and I stayed there until 2009. And at that point, in 2009, I was married for 5 years, and I had 2 children. At that point, very little. And my husband got a fellowship at Harvard, and so we moved from New York to outside Boston. And originally, it was just going to be a temporary move, and then we ended up staying because it seemed like a more livable place, or it has been a really good livable place, but still very close to New York. So what happened to Theo? So yeah, a lot of people are curious what happened to Theo. What's not in the movie, but I can't even remember if it's in the book, but after about 6 months, or maybe 3 or 4 months after my father died, I went back to Paris, and I had taken his remains, his ashes, and I had them in a box, and I kind of smuggled them onto the plane in a over-the-shoulder bag, because I wanted to scatter his ashes in the Seine, which is the main river that runs through Paris. And when I went back to Paris, I stayed with a friend's friend, actually, and I made a point to see Theo, because we hadn't seen each other. By that point, it had been over a year, because he'd visit San Francisco the first Christmas after I moved home to take care of my dad. And we had some letters, but as I got more involved with my father and the end of my father's life, those letters, I just wasn't answering his letters, basically, because I was so distracted by what I had going on. But when I flew back to Paris in 1993 to scatter these ashes, I made a point of meeting Theo for lunch, and then he told me that he was engaged to be married. He had met and started dating a woman whose family was from the same Alsatian town in France that's sort of near the German border that his family was from. And they're still married, and they have 4 children, and they live in Marseille. So he's happily married. But I have seen him a couple times since I've been back to Paris, and his wife really loved this book. And he agreed to let his name be used in both the book and the movie. So he's been a supporter of this project, which is really great. Are there any other questions? I know it's pretty late. People have probably been sitting in the theater for a very long time.
This gentleman is asking how many people here tonight in the audience knew Barbara? Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
A picture of this. Raise your hand and take a picture so she sees Barbara.
Tell Alysia to hold on.
I mean, I feel very lucky. I just want to say, I feel very lucky that we were actually able to get a theatrical release for this film between when the book first got optioned in 2013 and when the movie premiered at Sundance in 2023. The landscape of movie making completely changed. And it was just very, very hard to get a movie financed, get a movie distributed. People didn't know how to get people back into movie theaters after COVID. They didn't know if people would go back into movie theaters if it wasn't a superhero movie. And so just to have a small, an independent feature that's focused on, grown-up, a sophisticated sort of grown-up story, to find a theatrical release for that is a really huge deal. Did I have any influence on casting? I was able to give names. The thing is, I am very out of touch with whatever young actors would be up and coming to play me, for example. All the actors I knew by name were essentially my age, and I needed to have someone who could play a 15-year-old. And so I did not have any idea of who would be a good pick. Um, and I gave some, I sort of was excited to learn who was playing Steve, but honestly, it took many years between when we had a script and were trying to raise money and when we finally raised enough money that there were some actors who were attached and then they had to go and do other films, and they were attached and then they had to leave. So, but I think that Scoot McDerry does an amazing job. And I love that there are people in the audience who knew Barbara. Yeah, it was really intense for me to have a real photo of Barbara used on the cover of the funeral program at the beginning of the movie, and also the pictures of her on the wall, because I studied those pictures so much as a child, because she was so young. And I was so young when she died. I didn't have any memory of her. So I really knew those photos well. And so it was very strange to be on set and have this world that was kind of designed and built to resemble these sites of my childhood based on the way I described it in a book, but then to have an actual photo of my actual mother could be weird or shocking. But I also felt like I couldn't imagine any other way. Like if they had used a photo of another woman, it would have bothered me. I think I wanted to have actually Barbara's image. Someone has asked about whether the movie's up for any awards or how we can champion the movie to receive awards. That's such a nice question to ask. Actually, one thing you can do that would mean a lot is to review the movie, audience reviews. So on IMDb, on Rotten Tomatoes, on maybe Metacritic. There's a different review aggregator sites where you can leave a review if you've seen the movie. So if you can leave positive reviews, that will increase the score of the movie that comes up when you do a Google search, and that will increase the likelihood that people will go see the movie. And if a lot of people see the movie, then we'll be in a better position to have wider distribution, or we'll be in a better position to have a good deal when it goes on streaming. And that kind of attention can also help with award season. So I would say if you want to help and support the movie, write a review and tell your friends who live in Kewanee to see the movie, and anyone who's living someplace else where the movie is playing to see the movie. And then when it comes out on streaming, which I have to think it will come out, that again, any reviews online is what will make a difference when people are like, what do I want to see tonight? And to say, like, this isn't just, I mean, it is a sad movie, but I also feel like it's a joyful movie. And I also feel like it can be nice to, at least in a movie theater, to experience emotion with other people, like in a darkened theater. Do I feel any differently now about my dad teaching me independence compared to the time? I think I wanted more of my dad than he had to give me when I was young. I think I think that he parented sometimes out of a sort of innocence or naivete about his decisions. Like he's like, well, this seems like a good idea. Why not this? And it was kind of like he was experimenting. Like his only thing he knew is he didn't want to parent me the way he was parented. But I think I could have benefited from a little bit more structure. I ended up, because I was not someone who liked to be alone that much. If I did come home to the apartment alone, I was friends with the neighbors, because I sometimes would lose my keys, and so I'd stay at the neighbors till my dad came home, or I'd go to the library in my town, and I had a friend whose family owned a business on the street, and I would hang out with her, and sometimes I would just go to the storefronts on the street, and get to know all the people the shopkeepers in different boutiques, and that was really fun and exciting. Like, I think it was really good for me to be as independent as I was in ways. But I think you know, I think I really would have liked to have maybe just some more stable figures in my life that I could count on. You know, because my grandparents, Monk and Grandpa, they were that to me. I talked to them every single week, and I would go out there every summer, but they lived far away. I just didn't have a lot of family nearby. So I think it would have been nice. After this answer, pause for a moment. I am now going to pause for a moment.
Chrissy says we only have about 5 minutes left, so. Are there any
7
other
minutes
questions
left.
anybody wants me to text
How many
or-
minutes?
7 minutes
Oh,
and
7, okay.
25
So,
seconds, yep.
Anybody else have anything else they want to say? Yeah.
He could start it all over, but.
Yeah,
we'd
then you'd have to
restart
start a
it.
new call, yeah. And her an hour ahead, so she's probably,
Yeah, because last night when we were testing it, she looked tired.
it's 'cause there's
Do I have
questions
any
going in
relationship
for
with
her.
my dad's family? That's funny you should ask, because I just got a phone call today from my other Uncle David. Uncle Davids are so wonderful that I actually happen to have two of them. I have my Uncle David Binder, and I have an Uncle David Abbott. And he heard me on the radio, because an interview I did a long time ago with a radio show called Fresh Air re-aired today. So he just phoned me on his drive, and it was so lovely to hear from him. But my dad's parents both died some years ago, and unfortunately in that family that family is not as close with each other as my mother's side of the family. So on my mother's side, my Uncle David, my Aunt Janet and Jim, and my cousins, Jeremy and Judson, like everyone is still very close, and there's usually some gathering once a year. And this year we all gathered for my aunt's birthday. And so, but on my father's side of the family, there was a rift inside that family, meaning that my other Uncle David and my Aunt Elaine, I don't know if they are speaking. They had stopped speaking at some point, and I don't know if they're speaking. And I think it's just really important. I mean, my father had just wasn't very close with them. I mean, it was friendly. It wasn't unfriendly, but he just didn't feel a natural intimacy with them. So I would visit them sometimes in the summers, or sometimes we've had a few Christmases with them, but it was generally a little bit more stiff. And if you know Ann Binder, she was not stiff. She was very fun and warm, like genuinely fun. And so I just wasn't as close with that side of the family, with my dad's side of the family. I know we only have less than 5 minutes on this Zoom. That's what the clock is telling me here. So we might just have time for one
The
final.
relationship with my phone has just gotten deeper and more intense.
She told me something about how he.
Are we still there?
Yeah, we're still
I don't know what just happened. Okay, my Uncle David is calling.
Yeah, you're calling her now.
Hi. Hello.
She's talking to you.
She's talking to you.
I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
You have to put it to your ear.
yeah.
Just if you unmute me, can you speak? Or if you unmute me, can you speak?
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Tell her thank you very much.
This is like a mystery where I'm getting messages, thank you. So I think that means that we're gonna close up. So the thank you is thank you, everyone. I think we are done. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for your wonderful questions. Thank you for supporting this movie. Thank you for, I do need to come back to Kewanee, maybe 12 days, it's been too long. But I really want to come back and spend time in the library and at Winlock Park, because those are some of the places that are the most meaningful to me. But thank you so much, everyone, for your time and for seeing the movie. And have a good night. Bye.
Okay, just one last thing that I would just say for everybody, and thank you all for coming out.
David.
Oh, there.
I just the only last thing I would say to everybody is, you know, someone that lived in Kewanee and grew up with this movie that was made about the family. It's kind of weird to have your family family laundry on a screen like this, so it's kind of a little awkward and uncomfortable for me. But the one thing that I wanted to say to everybody in the audience tonight that is important is that, you know, in talking with a lot of people here, a lot of my Kewanee friends and people I grew up with, a lot of us have lost loved ones and had family members die way too young, whether by accident or by illness or whatever. But you know, I know a lot of us share the grief of losing a loved one or a sibling. And my mother was depicted correctly when the movie portrayed her as wanting Steve to get a full-time job and a regular income, because my mom believed that Alysia would have a better chance of success at life if her father was more of a traditional dad and had a traditional income and raised her in a traditional home. And I understood that about my mother. That's the way she was. And I think if there's any lesson that we all can learn about, you know, what happened with Alysia after she lost her mother and then lost her father, is that, you know, sometimes you can still be okay in growing up in non-traditional families and end up okay. And even though we all want the best for them, you know, I'm very, very proud of Alysia for getting this book written and then obviously being made into a movie. And I think the lesson for all of us is, as long as, even though we lose loved ones in our family, if we have love left for the people around us, and we let that guide us, then that's going to be the best opportunity for success in life. And that's kind of what Alysia proved here, I think. So thank you all.